Hi there again. To continue from the last video, I want to make a clarification real quick. I had mentioned when my the trigger finger issue happened, that my hands were strong. At that point, my body had been pretty well ravaged by this illness, and I was pretty weak at that point, and my hands were not really very strong at all. And I wanted to make that distinction. Well, I wanted to make the clarification. My body was just so deeply affected by this sickness and all of the stuff that I had been dealing with, the stresses, and I was in rough shape at that point when I started working at this hardwood supplier. So I wanted just to kind of give an idea of I was on a downward decline at this point with my body well into it. Now around this time, my parents had my father had been willed a food business. The primary product was mustard. At the height of this business, which was originally owned and started by my grandmother about 40 years prior, she had an entire line of foods. This was given to my father as to continue that business, and we had always discussed this and agreed that we would run this as a family. They had received, my parents both received this business and had received it within the past 3 or 4 years. During that time, I had been finally given the go-ahead to begin making contacts with large grocery chains and restaurants in hopes to move the business to the East Coast where we live. The business was started out in the Rocky Mountain region, and we were certainly going to continue it there. We had a very devoted customer base, and but since we lived in the East Coast, it just made sense to also expand it out to the East Coast. This was always something that we had agreed upon doing, and I had by this time, when I was working for this hardwood supplier, I had spent a lot of time making contacts with a handful of grocery chains and restaurants and pubs, places that carried condiments, mustard. I had put a considerable amount of effort into it. There was one problem, and I had mentioned this over the years, that our product, the mustard, was packaged in such a way that it didn't have a tamper evidence seal. It just had this cardboard membrane over the top, and this was a problem for the reason that it didn't have a tamper evidence seal, which I considered to be really important. And I was actually really surprised that our clients who carried our product were okay with it not having that. But another issue that it created was that during fluctuations in temperature, and if the product were to be tipped over on its side, it would leak. So this tamper evidence seal would provide a solution to two problems, and it was simply just a replacement of an already existing component of the current packaging. We would take the membrane that we were currently using and simply replace it with an almost identical looking product, but with the use of an induction sealer would create a seal that you had to peel off, providing a tamper evident seal, and a seal if temperatures fluctuated, so pressures increased inside that container, and if the container tipped over. Now, the reason I mention this is because it was extremely important, in my opinion, when presenting this product to potential clients, these grocery chains, that the product be ready for mass production. We already had it in mass production out west, and like I said, somehow the lack of a tamper evident seal was considered satisfactory. I didn't think it was at all, and it would have cost almost nothing, and really an inconsequential amount of money to change that packaging that way. And I'm mentioning this because this company, as much as I wanted to I didn't have dreams of running a mustard company. However, it was a well-established company, and it did essentially, I do say with a pretty significant amount of confidence that it would ensure a lifetime of consistent income, and substantial enough to live a modest life without expanding it too far. Now, as I began to get sicker and I realized that I was really being impacted in terms of how much I was able to work, and that I wasn't getting the help I needed medically, that I may actually have to rely on this company, it turns out, as a source of income. I mentioned this to my mother at some point, saying essentially that, I may actually have to rely on this. I'm getting to be in such poor health that I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to work. I really meant that, and this was something that weighed on me a lot. I had mentioned how important my health was to me, and not everyone views health the same way. Some people understand the importance of health, and some people really are irresponsible with their bodies and their health, and I've never been like that. I understand the importance of health, and so now, having mentioned this, I around this time had was just about to start meeting with all of the contacts that I had made at these chains, at these grocery chains. I wanted to have the product ready to go and packaged as it would be on the shelves, because I was concerned that if we presented the product in, especially without a tamper evident seal, that we would be turned away. They would view us as potential liabilities, people who weren't running a good company intelligently. And with the amount of competition in that industry, I feared that our first chance of presenting this product to anyone who would potentially carry it on the shelves would be our last chance. So we needed to bring our product to them in its finished form. I presented this in a discussion with my parents. We're in our dining room table, and during that discussion, I was simply presenting this argument and this claim to importance of it to my parents. My father was unwilling to listen, and he said that I was no longer part of the company. He said, "I don't think you should be part of the company anymore." I could get further into details, but I was presenting this in a logical and a reasonable fashion. And before I was even able to get through my explanation, his patience just wore entirely out. And standard fashion throughout, it felt like the conversations I had all through my childhood and up to that current day. Just an unwillingness to engage in dialogue that was for important matters, and it resulted in something that was really devastating to me, and he did it so cavalierly. I really was harmed. That was my last hope, really. That was the last hope that I was holding out for financial security, and for him to throw it all away. And also, in addition to that, this offered us the ability to unite more as a family. It would allow us, just that small additional amount of income that this business would allow us, would grant us financial freedom that we'd never had before. And that would allow us to spend more quality time together. I really mean that. That was something that I had always been striving for, was becoming financially secure enough to spend, my parents were in their 70s, and I wanted to have, a solid, handful of years that I could spend with them, to have a meaningful amount of time with them, not worried about finances, and just enjoy each other. And to build something together would have been so satisfying and healthy for us in so many ways. I felt like it was just such a foolish action that he took, and so damaging to us as a family and to my future. I was very angry about it. I really was very angry about it. In addition to that, around that time, an acquaintance of mine who I'd known for I don't know, maybe 15 years or so, he was involved in politics for a while in Portland, and had, as he evolved out of politics, he became a real estate agent, I think, and so he had some real estate ventures. He phoned me up about a property that he was trying to get ready to put on the market. This property, I went, took a look at it, and was deciding whether or not I was going to do the work on it. It happened to be right in town where my parents lived. It was about 5 minutes away. It was in the other town, but it was very close, about five or so minutes away. My father looked at it, and this was just shortly before he removed me from the business. He had considered buying that building, and I was so happy because it was such a fantastic deal. It was they could have had about $4,500 worth of revenue per month with that building, with about a $215,000 investment. And I offered to do all of the work on it myself, no cost, while living in one of the units for just a period of time while I did that. That would allow, first of all, them to have another source of income. And it was really just a fantastic business opportunity. It was a huge, it was about a 7-year return on investment. And it was turnkey. There were already tenants there, and the tenants were good folks who intended to stay there. This would allow, yes, like I said, an additional source of income, a good investment, a physical investment. This was just a good, solid investment. Anyway, it also would allow me to escape this apartment that I was living in. I desperately wanted to escape it, and they knew. I had mentioned this many times. I didn't want to be a burden on them by mentioning this, but they knew. I had been there for a long time, and this property manager, and who became the landlord, was a massive strain on me. I thought about this man every single day. It was massively damaging to me. This would allow me to escape that and put equity into a place that would eventually become my own. They turned that down, which was really unfortunate. Now, at this point, Dave had become the owner of the building, and had immediately after becoming the owner demanded that I remove my items from first the attic, which was, I had probably about an 8x8 section in that attic, and all of the residents in that building had some. It was a large attic. It took up the entire floor footprint, floor footprint, and so removing those items, they had to go in my living room. So that was my living room became essentially unusable while that stuff was in there. And then they had me remove my shop from the basement. That was a huge undertaking. I'm going to stop this video here. I'll get into that briefly and move on. I want to make these videos a little bit shorter as I near the end. But in the next video, I'll just go over his demands for what would, in the end, be removing me from all of my storage areas in that building. I'll finish that in the next video. I'll see you then. Thank you.